everyone. Welcome back to She Birds Podcast. I'm your host, Brittany Show, and today's guest is Monica. Hi, Monica.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for being a guest today.
Well, thank you for having me.
So, can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
So I spent 32 years in public education, raised my two boys. I live in Vermont, and I never planned to write a book. I was actually a teacher who hated writing. I love to teach math because every time that I did, 5 plus 4 was always 9. And I never had to worry about, anybody second guessing me or questioning it. And then I got ill. I was sick, and somebody said writing was therapeutic, and I had this cool dime story to share, and I put pen to paper, and now here I am.
Wow, that's amazing. So, can you tell us a little bit about your book? I'm going to bring it on stage while we're on here.
This is actually my third book.
The third-
My first book, if you scroll down, I think it's at the bottom, it's called Dimes from Heaven: How Coins and Coincidences Helped Me Discover My Life as an Empath.
Okay.
And my mom passed away in 2014 on New Year's Eve. And then 8 months later, my dad passed away.
Oh.
And to back up a little bit, in 2008, my nephew had passed. And my kids were like 12 and 14 at the time. And I really struggled helping them navigate, losing their cousin who was not very old. And that sent me on a journey to explore the afterlife. And I started reading books, and I started going to see mediums. And so I had done all this learning prior to losing my parents. And I had shared a little bit with my dad about some of my beliefs. And on the front cover of this book, there's a Liberty Head dime. And that's what my dad gave to me from his coin collection. He made them all into necklaces for all the kids and grandkids. And so lo and behold, after he passed 8 months later. And 2 weeks after his death, I was not expecting a sign. And lo and behold, it's such a fascinating story to me to look back at this moment in my life and how it has totally transformed my life. There was this mountain that I always climbed, and I live in the Green Mountains. And I climbed this mountain a lot that summer that I took care of him. And I'd call him when I get to the top of the mountain, and I'd say, "Hey, Dad, I'll be down for coffee after." And, I'm on top of the mountain, I'll be down. So the 2 weeks after he died, I knew that I couldn't call him, and I didn't know what to do. And I was crying and so upset. And a friend said, "Oh, you'll know what to do when you get there." And I was like, "That's not helpful. I want
Yeah.
to know what to do. Like, I can't call my dad. What do I do?" So anyway, when I got to the top of the mountain, right where I would sit to call him, I kid you not, there was a dime in the ground.
Oh, wow.
And it wasn't a Liberty Head dime. And that's not the ending of the book. That's not why I wrote the book. It was 2 years later, and another dime, where I was just like, this is my dad. This is my dad, 100% showing me that he is still with me. And so I just wrote it partly to help other people understand more about the afterlife, but also understand how sensitive I was. I didn't really understand until I put pen to paper, and everything that came out in this story was where I had been in my life, and how, being a public school educator, I couldn't really share the spiritual side of myself.
Mm-hmm.
And, I kept that part hidden. And it was actually kind of scary to write this book because a lot of people saw me as that public school educator and not a spiritual, person. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it was just something that I never planned to do.
What was your hardest scene to write in this book?
Um, all of it was therapeutic. So there were tears for sure every time that I can remember, caring for my parents before they died, and bringing my mother to the hospital, and all those kind of scenes that unfold
Mm-hmm.
as they transition. What I say, that they didn't necessarily die, that they transitioned to their spirit form,
Mm-hmm.
and that they're still with me. But those memories are kind of hard to navigate for sure.
Yeah, the speaking about the spirit life, I've never been one to believe in it until my granny passed.
Mm.
And I started doing things that she would do. Like she wiped her feet before she gets in her bed. And I started doing, I was like, why am I wiping my feet? And one day I seen my granny at the end of my bed. I swear I seen her. I swear I seen her. And I'm just like, I never was a believer of the spirit life at all until I witnessed it myself.
Yeah, so that was me. Like, even though
Yeah.
I was studying about the spirit world and I was
Mhm.
going to see mediums, I was kind of doubtful. I was like, I don't know about this stuff. But when it happens to you, it's
Yeah.
like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, is this really happening right now?
Yeah. I mean, even my second book, if you scroll up a little bit, my second book was all about my journey writing, and this book shares, my story about what happened while I was writing.
Mhm.
Crazy things happen, but it also helps that next person who wants to try to publish their own book. But I went to get business cards for my business, and I had lots of places around. I could have ordered them online. I chose to go with like a local company and support them. And I walk in to pick them up, and they looked at me and they said, "Did you write a book?" And I said, "Yeah." And they said, "Well, is it about dimes?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, it's dimes from heaven." And they said, "Well, it's kind of weird and a coincidence that we have a dime glued to the floor over here." I was like, "What? Like, how do I pick the place that has a dime glued to the floor?" Like, I just felt like my parents were supporting me.
Wow, that's amazing. What was your hardest scene to write in this book?
Oh, so this one digs into some really intense topics about subconscious and conscious, like what's stored in our subconscious.
Mm,
Um, I think that the hardest part was like, I kind of, in the first book, I kind of struggled with my relationship with my mother
mm,
um, throughout my whole life. But the thing about it is, she didn't really understand how sensitive I was. And so in this book, I dive into like this like aha moment that I
mm,
had, that like it wasn't her fault, right? And that comes out in the first book too.
mm,
But writing about like how to quiet your mind, because your mind is telling you things, right? My mind was telling me over and over the same story that I told about my mother,
mhm,
right? And I hung on to that story. And in this book, I kind of explain what happened to me during the writing process was, whoa, I can't blame everything on her. Like, that's
yeah.
not okay. And that I have to own some of my own stuff. And so in this, I kind of own my stuff.
Mhm. That's amazing. That's really amazing. And let's talk about your third book. Can you tell us a little bit about this one?
Yeah. So after I shared, people, my first two books, people came out of the woodwork and were like telling me all kinds of stories, and then more coincidences, more synchronicities. Like, it was just kind of crazy. And so I started just kind of putting them together. And I didn't really know where it was going, to be honest. And I kind of listened to my readers, and they were like, "Monica, I am so happy for you that you get signs from your dad. Like, I get it that dimes are important because of that necklace, and, but I really want to get in touch with my loved ones, and
Mhm,
I want to know how to do this." And so without having to go spend, a ton of money on mediums or go to classes or whatever, they just wanted to know, how do I get a sign? So this one answers that question, and it's filled with another bunch of stories. That's why it's called Once Upon a Dime.
oh.
And I won't tell you how that name came to be, but you have to read the book because it's fascinating that my dad was helping me along the way this whole time again. And my mom was there too to support me. But just a few minutes ago, you shared a story about like visually seeing your
Yeah.
gram,
Yeah.
right? And so I dig into like all the clairs. So I talk about in this book that we all have five senses that are what I call the earthly senses, right? Your smell, your taste, your sight, all
Mhm,
those things. But you also have that in the spirit world too. And a lot of times in school, we're taught to, do the math. 5 + 4 is always 9. Let's stay in that concrete world. But there's these other 5 senses that we can actually get in contact with people. So I don't have that visual ability like you have. I've never actually seen something like that, but I've smelled things, I've felt things, I've heard things, all these things that aren't there, right? Like I've smelled cigar smoke and there's nobody around, but my grandfather smoked a cigar.
Yeah.
And so, like, those are the things that I teach you in this one.
Oh, wow. What was your hardest scene to write in this one?
Boy, I go back to time that what started me on this journey was Tyler dying. Um,
Mhm.
and he was a key person because when he passed away, we flew to Nashville to go to his service. Um,
How
and
old was he?
he was 21.
Oh.
And it just set me on this journey of like this deep soul journey, kind of like, why am I here? Which I know some people are asking, like, why am I still here? And yeah, I just think that he's kind of been with me this whole time too, and supporting me in ways that are hard to determine. But that one's it always kind of triggers the tears to come. So I
Oh.
always give like this one, like you can read each book by themselves,
Mhm.
or you can read them, in order or out of order. It really doesn't matter. But this one, I made sure to give the background of my journey so that you wouldn't be like lost. Like, why is she writing about dimes? I give you that background story so that you could start with this one if this is your first book that you picked up. They actually are all 3 now in what a book. You can only get the paperback version for that one, but it's Dimes from Heaven, the trilogy. And
Oh,
so all 3 of them are together.
nice. And I wanted to know, okay, you mentioned the necklace. Can you tell us a little bit more about the necklace? Like, is it a necklace with a dime on it? Like,
Yeah, so I don't have it on right now. I feel bad. Um, so yeah, so my dad had this coin collection, and one Saturday afternoon, him and I took care of him after my mom passed. And yeah, one Saturday afternoon, he woke up from his nap and he said, "Hey, your mom and I have this coin collection. You want to go find it? I think I know where we hid it." I was like, okay. So we went on this search, and there's a funny thing that happens when we went on that search, but I won't give it away. Read the book because it's absolutely hilarious. Um, and then so I start sorting it, and he says, "Oh, just sell it all." And I said, "No, no, no, no. We're going to sort this. We're going to give all the grandkids some." They weren't, anything rare or expensive, but it would just be cool for the grandkids and for us kids to get like a little coin collection, right?
yeah.
My dad or my grandfather or their grandfather. And so I started sorting them, and we started looking at them. And the picture on the front of this book is the Liberty Head dime from the early 1900s. And then again, after I was sorting, he woke up from his nap. And this is he's getting these ideas in that in between state of sleep and wake. And that's a really important time when you can listen to ideas, because you're kind of in the spirit world because you're sleeping, but
Mhm.
you're here on earth. And so that's when a lot of ideas come through. So he woke up from his nap and he said, "Hey, can we put those Liberty Head dimes into a necklace for everybody?" And we had exactly the number that we needed for kids and grandkids. And so you can buy little coin holders that go on a necklace, and you can just get a necklace piece for them to go on. And so that's what we did. And lo and behold, and I also didn't know at the time how important that was going to be. And one of the last conversations that I had with him, I wanted him to, sounds kind of silly, but I wanted him to gift his belongings, like his furniture, to people so that, it was just like, okay, I got this really nice bureau from my dad or whatever it was, right?
Mhm.
And he was fighting me on it. And I said to him on our last car ride, I said, Dad, a dime is just a dime until
Mhm.
it a dime from your dad or your grandfather. And then, dad, it's a dime, right? Like the meaning of it is so much more when it's a gift from somebody. And we'll keep, we'll keep that thought in our hearts all the time, right? And
Yes.
so we got home and he agreed to, like, okay, so and so gets this piece of furniture, and we were able to do that before he ended up having like mini strokes, so he couldn't talk. And then he passed away like 3 days later.
Well, I'm glad you got to spend that quality time with your father before he passed on.
Yeah, I still hold it in my heart. And I always try to think about the legacy. And that's what this book gets into too, is thinking about what legacy do you want to leave behind? Because that love is still there. Grief is just love, right? With no place to go. Because you love your gran, right?
Yes.
You still have that love here, but
Yeah.
she's just not here for you to give it to. So that's grief to me.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So, where can my listeners and your readers find your books?
So all three of them are on Amazon. You can also order them from any bookstore. They are in Kindle and audio. It's me reading them on Audible. Um, yeah, anywhere. And then my website is monicalmorrissey.com.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And my last and final question before I let you go, what advice would you give? I'm trying to think. Oh, yeah. No, I wanted to talk about your classes as well. I remember now. Your classes. Can you tell us a little bit about those? Let me bring that up.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if this is really updated right now, to be quite honest, but if you go to Reiki classes, so
Reiki.
I now am a spiritual teacher and I teach Reiki. And what I add to the Reiki classes is more than just Reiki. So Reiki is a healing technique that's from Japan, and it's been done, laying of hands for thousands of years. But I also teach you the basics of your energetic system, and I teach you how to tap into your intuition and use your 5 spiritual senses so that you can navigate this life in a different way. Because the basis of my business is called intuitive wellness. And I believe that we are a soul with a body, not a body with a soul. And your soul has to come first. So I also do past life regression work. I also do dream analysis. I do lots of different things, but Reiki is like my baby. And I love teaching people how to manage and take care of their energy. For instance, if you just put your hands on your heart for just a quick second and take a few deep breaths. And everybody out there who's listening, just do that for a second. It kind of shuts off the noise that's around us, right? Social media, all this stuff that's around us, and it brings us back to our energy right here.
It
And
does help. It
yeah,
does help, like if you have a panic attack too. It
yep.
does.
Yeah, so I do a lot of work with nervous system, understanding your nervous system. Because I'm an educator, it just comes natural to me. So I'm using, in the Reiki classes, I also teach you, about your polyvagal nerve and your mirror neurons. And so I get into some more um, details about those things and how to navigate this world in a different way.
Wow. So do you have payment plans for like people who are broke like me? No, I'm just joking, but do you have
I
it?
do. I do. I'll make a deal with anybody. Right now, I've lowered my prices for the spring, but they will probably stay that way. I teach online and in person, and I do individual classes because this is so life changing that I want people to know and how to do it. I did it almost 30 years ago for myself, and people think that Reiki is like, oh, I'm going to learn Reiki in order to start a business. No, that's not necessarily why you do it. You do it for you first, and then maybe for your family or friends too. But I did it almost 30 years ago because I was in so much pain I had just had back surgery, and the doctors couldn't figure out why I was still in pain. And when I started doing Reiki, it started to calm my nervous system, which then calmed my pain. And so it was a pain management thing for me personally. And then like you said, if for anxiety or anything, it's better than taking a pill. Like, it's so much better to be able to manage your own energetic system.
Mhm. That's true. Because when I was having panic attacks, they told me to do exactly what you said to do. And it does help. It really does.
Yeah. Yep.
But so let me see. Okay. Okay, so just go down here to sign up right here. Or
Yeah, or just
where is it?
shoot me a message. You can find me on social media. I have a group called Dimes from Heaven, and it has a picture of my third book. You can shoot me a message, or there's a contact form on my website too.
Oh,
To send me a message. I do schedule, periodically. Right now, I'm not sure if they're updated. Periodically, I do schedule, online Reiki classes. So you keep checking in, or just reach out and find out when my next class is.
all right, all right. Thank you so much, Monica, for being a guest today on my podcast and chatting with me.
Well, thank you for having me.
You have a great day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey everyone, I want to thank you all so much for listening to my interview with Monica. If you would like to get in contact with her in her classes, as she said, you can just shoot her a message. You can also go to her website, monicalmorrissey.com, and go on there to purchase her books, or Amazon to purchase her books, or Kindle to purchase her books. I want to thank you all so much for listening to She Births Podcast, and see you next time for the next interview. Bye.